told my husband to sit down and be quiet while drinking with neighbors. But what he did next stunned everyone. I didn't just tell him to sit and be quiet. I told the man who's loved me through everything that his opinion didn't matter. And now, all I want to hear is his voice, for him to say anything to me because this silence is deafening. It's not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that gnaws at you and reminds you of what you've done. I've replayed that moment 100 times, trying to convince myself it was a joke, that I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But the truth is, it wasn't just the words. It was the weight of everything I'd said before. Every little jab and dig I convinced myself was not hurtful, but just playful banter between a husband and wife, and that I was just looking out for his best interest, and everything was for his own good. But they carried a sting I refused to acknowledge. My name is Caroline, and my husband's name is Joel. We've been married for 5 years now. Joel and I started out at the same company, but I had barely noticed him until our first encounter. My first meeting with Joel will forever be a warm and beautiful memory to me. Days before our first meeting, our company had selected a few competent workers and assigned us with a mission, and that was to come up with a good strategy plan for the company's new upcoming project, which was like a golden opportunity to the 5 of us that got selected. It was decided that after each person had given their best presentation, the one with the best was going to be chosen, and the idea of that already painted a picture of the lucky winner earning a promotion. We were all excited, and everyone worked so hard to earn the golden opportunity. I wasn't an exception either. I had stayed up late at night and worked so hard for days preparing for it, and even on the night of D-Day, I had burned an all-nighter at work just so I wouldn't miss that day for anything. That morning, probably hours before the presentation, I had unintentionally spilled my morning coffee on my laptop, and the file for the presentation was in there. I was so lost and terrified that I had no idea what to do. The thought of failing to give my presentation that day and losing this sure way to a promotion alone already got me so anxious that I began to panic. Joel was the first to clock into work that morning, and he met me crying and disheveled about what my fate was going to be. Despite my cries and panic, Joel was so calm about everything. He got my laptop and tried his best to help me recover the file, but when he saw it was pointless, he did something that left me stunned. He handed his presentation to me and rushed me to read through it and get myself ready for the presentation. I couldn't believe what he said, as we were both strangers to each other. I had never seen someone like him before, and the fact that he was willing to go to such lengths for someone he barely knew left me perplexed. I had refused, but he insisted, stating he was okay and the presentation wasn't so important to him, so he only worked on it because he was chosen. He said he could see it meant a lot to me, so I should go ahead and use his work without any worries. Being at the edge and left with no choice, I immediately grabbed the opportunity, and just like that, I gave Joel's presentation that day, and I got picked as the winner. My boss was so impressed by the idea that he immediately announced that I was the team leader from that day on, and I was given full authority to see to the success of that project. I couldn't believe what happened, but I can't deny I was so happy. I met Joel after work that day, and before I could apologize, he gave me a very warm smile and sincerely congratulated me. I had never met such a person before. He was so okay with everything that I got a bit scared and confused. Everything felt surreal, and I just couldn't believe someone like that existed. I had assigned him as my partner during the project, which he had refused, saying he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable about anything, but I had strongly insisted and even went as far as using my office as his team leader. And that was how he accepted to join my team. The project was a success, and I must admit most of it was solely because of Joel's presence. During our team dinner, I had asked Joel why he did all that for me, and the thing Joel told me was that he didn't mind being in the background. "Not everyone needs the spotlight," he'd say with a small, shy smile. I believed him for years, or maybe I just convinced myself that believing him was easier than admitting the truth. I liked having the spotlight. I liked being the loud one, the funny one, the center of attention. But even spotlights can cast shadows, and I never stopped to think what it must feel like for him to live in mine. Shortly afterwards, we both started dating and then got married. Joel was the best man any woman could wish for. Though he wasn't from a wealthy family, he was so hardworking that I never felt I lacked anything. He was really supportive and tried his best to see to my happiness more than any other thing. He made sure I was first to him, and he would always say yes to everything I wanted. Most times we would have our lovers' quarrels, and even though I was in the wrong, he would always be the first to apologize, cook dinner, or express certain gestures just to make me feel better. My husband Joel is the kind of man who doesn't demand attention. He's soft-spoken, a little shy, and wears his humility like a second skin. His introverted and soft personality remained unchanged, and he was always stuck in his shell, afraid to be out in the light and always quiet. He did his job excellently and assisted everyone without taking any credit for it. He was handsome and warm too, so despite his locked-up and quiet lifestyle, he was easygoing and really kind. At home, he's patient and predictable in a way that makes you feel secure. But outside, around friends or strangers, he's like a shadow, always lingering at the edge of the conversation, letting others take the spotlight. I used to find it endearing, safe even. But over the years, it began to frustrate me. And that was how I lost my respect for him. I started to get sick of his weak and mild personality. I was okay if it was just with me, but it began to get embarrassing and upsetting when I saw him that way outside. One time, a lady in his team messed up with a document that was supposed to be submitted to our manager, and he took the blame for it, leading to his pay for that month getting ducked. I mean, must someone be so nice? I got so annoyed by everything, and just like that, I guess my emotions got the best of me. I started acting differently. I would boss my husband around and would leave him with extra work than needed. One time he made a little mistake in his report. I actually lashed out at him in front of everyone, saying he was so incompetent because instead of doing his job, he was out there being a good Samaritan and offering help to even those that never needed it. I even went as far as saying he should be ashamed of himself that all the people he started with are now in higher positions, and he was still stuck in the same spot, earning some little change, and even with the little he was earning, he still enjoyed playing the hero. I threw the report at his face and walked out after saying all the words that erupted from my mouth at that moment, but Joel was still the same. He left work early that day and prepared us dinner, and when I got home, he immediately apologized for getting me so upset in the office and promised not to make a mistake again. I felt so guilty and regretted my actions, and we were fine that night, but it didn't last. I returned to my bossy and proud lifestyle the next day. During lunchtime that day, I had gone down to the cafeteria to get myself stuffed with my lunch, but on getting there, I ruined lunch for someone else instead. When I got to the cafeteria, I saw Joel helping his team members get their lunch. They were all sitting and chatting, and he was there running around with trays in his hands and smiling like a servant. I felt so embarrassed that I walked up to him and tossed one of the trays he had in hand to the floor, and I asked him why he had not submitted the proposal he was working on till now. I had told him he should take his time working on the proposal, but seeing him that way stirred something in me, and I had just asked him the question without thinking. Before he could even say anything, I started rambling on about how he was wasting his time eating and serving his colleagues instead of working. I even went as far as saying he wasn't deserving to be part of my team or the company, and with that I stormed out of the cafeteria. I still regret everything I did. Looking back at everything now, I don't know why I did all that, and I can only imagine how bad he felt. That incident passed too, like others, and Joel and I went on with our lives, but that didn't stop me. I kept nitpicking and complaining at Joel at every little chance I had. One time when we were all out on a team dinner, everyone was so lively and engaging as always, bringing up one topic and cracking jokes, but Joel was so silent and avoiding every conversation. Why would he laugh at another person's joke but shut his lips when it looked like there was a slight chance he might have to participate? Even one time we ate out with our friends, everyone was tipsy and spilling all sorts of steamy gossip, and we were all joking and laughing, but Joel was just there drinking like a fish. He wouldn't even say a word. He was such a killjoy, and I would always nag about it when we got home, but he would always apologize, saying he didn't know what to say and didn't want to ruin the fun for everyone. How considerate! I would always mock and then walk away. Things were always up and down between us sometimes, but Joel was always patient with me, and I became so comfortable that I began to see both the wrong things as right. I was always right, and everything I did was the right thing. I believed I was in control until one day the change I was always begging and nagging for finally came. Our neighbors, Matt and Lisa, invited us over for our usual gathering. Since Lisa was a housewife, she would always invite me and Joel over each time her husband returned home from his business trips, which mostly happened at almost every end of the month, and we would gather to blow off the steam of a stressful work month. Before we'd realized, we became so comfortable with each other. Lisa and Matt were the kind of couple who drew people in. They're vibrant, full of stories, and always hosting. Last weekend, they invited us over for drinks, and as usual, Joel and I went. It started out light, with some beers, late-night snacks, and a few shared jokes and laughs. Joel sat in the corner, sipping quietly and letting me do most of the talking. I'm a natural conversationalist, or at least I like to think so. But that night, it all went wrong. It happened so fast, and there was no way I would have stopped it or erased it. Like I mentioned earlier, they're the kind of neighbors everyone wishes for. Easygoing, sociable, the glue that holds the neighborhood together. And I was in a good mood, maybe a little too good, with a few glasses of wine warming my veins. During our conversations, Joel was still quiet as ever, barely contributing and nursing his beer like it was his job to make it last the entire evening. And each time Matt or Lisa threw a question at him, he would have a nervous look on his face and sometimes answer like a child who is about to get smacked. At least to me, he looked that way, and it really got to me. People always say I can light up a room, but how in the world does someone else have a talent for turning a lively and chattering mood into some dull and somber moment with his countenance, an edgy smile, and worse, just opening his mouth each and every time? He smiled and responded to every question like he was forced to, and anyone would get the idea that maybe I had actually threatened him to join me at our neighbor's place. I got more pissed and was starting to see red when Lisa cracked a joke saying Joel was such a low-key guy, unlike her husband, who had the high-key vibe, and to everyone's surprise and my goddamn forsaken luck, he was mute and looked clueless. And as if that wasn't enough, Joel asked her what low-key and high-key meant. He had been quiet the whole time and should have remained that way, but he just had to speak up and embarrass me more. I mean, who doesn't know the meaning of low-key? My gosh, even kids these days get the slang, and he what? How in the world is Joel so clueless about almost everything? I kept asking myself, and before I even realized it, I was staring at him with daggers in my eyes. I felt the need to disappear if only I got a chance to, but thankfully Lisa laughed it off, and I was just so thankful things didn't get more awkward. Our chattering continued, and at some point, Matt brought up the topic of vacations. Lisa laughed, saying she'd have to drag Matt to take one because he's always working. They looked so sweet and seemed to match each other's vibes, and I couldn't help but envy them. I was stuck with a soft, naive, and boring man I called a husband. I started to ask myself why I was really okay with his personality before, that I even married him, and to think such thoughts actually crossed my mind makes me see myself as such an undeserving person. I had barely even contained my anger and thoughts when Matt turned to Joel and asked if we had any trips planned. Before Joel could answer, I waved him off and said, "Oh, please, sit and be quiet." Then I added, "Joel's idea of adventure is trying a new brand of cereal." The whole room shook with loud, raucous laughter from Matt and Lisa, which was the expected outcome of my words. But then the additional episode that followed after that caught everyone off guard, and I became sobered from all the wine I had chugged down since the gathering started. In a flash, Joel crushed the glass of wine he had in hand to pieces with his bare hand, before picking up the bottle of wine and smashing it to the ground. His action unwittingly sent a jolt of shock to everyone from the shattering sound that followed. Lisa and Matt's eyes were wide from shock because of Joel's sudden outburst, which was so new to not just them, but me too. I had never seen Joel so furious before. His eyes were dripping fire, and his fists were clenched tight as if he was going to turn anyone that came into sight into a punching bag. I was so scared, and I had no idea how to react to this new side of Joel. He laggardly got to his feet and strode out of the little party to our home. I sat there like my ass had been stitched to the chair, not knowing what to do next. When I had finally gathered my thoughts, I suddenly felt a feeling of being humiliated and insulted by Joel's action. I got to my feet, and not willing to let my pride drop anymore, I walked out on Matt and Lisa without even looking back. Nor did I feel the urge to apologize to them on Joel's behalf, as I convinced myself that it was Joel's mess, and just like I always did, I was going to make sure he cleaned it up. I rushed home, riled up with rage and ready to earn an apology, which I felt I so deserved from Joel. I was also going to remind him of his place, which was always at the edge and in the shadows. I was fully hyped with the confidence that he would immediately get on his knees and apologize to me just like he always did, because after all, I had the man I married wrapped in between my fingers, and as always, it was going to be easy, and then everything would be fixed and returned to the way it was before. I was such an idiot, and the clueless one this time, that I had not noticed that the tables had turned on me. I started yelling at Joel the moment I got into the house. He was sitting on our bed with his right hand on his head. I was so furious to even notice he was bleeding. I immediately demanded an apology, and the next thing that happened was nothing close to the apology or worship I had expected. Joel snapped. I have never encountered someone lose it to that extent before, and the fact that it was Joel got me so terrified that I almost wet myself. He kept repeating the words, "I've had enough." He stated that he had been so patient with me, and he was tired of always giving and not receiving. He would rather be treated badly by anyone outside his life since it never affected him, but it was different when I did the same. It hurt. It hurt him when his own wife, who was a part of him, would do the same. He asked me how much joy I felt each time I looked down at him and treated him like he was a stranger to me. He asked if my ego gets satisfied each time I belittled him, and now it was obvious his presence meant nothing to me anymore. What shocked me more was when he spilled the fact that he had overheard my one-time chat with Lisa, and I had the nerve to admit that I had married him because he seemed like the kind that would die even if I asked him to. He said he was fighting with himself at the thought that I had never loved him and only needed him, and my actions that night confirmed everything, so it was finally clear to him, and he wanted to stop lying to himself. I was so speechless, and I had no idea what to say and just stood there like a statue. He ended by telling me he was going to give me the perfect husband I always wished for, and before I could blink twice, he walked out on me. Since then, Joel has been so silent and has never been the same ever since that night. He goes to work so early and has been overworking himself. He comes home late, hardly eats dinner with me, and most times when he does, he would just ignore me and wouldn't even look at me. I'm so confused I don't know what else to do. Please help me. I need advice. How do I change everything? Update. It's funny how we tend to hurt people without even realizing it. What I did to my husband is a perfect example, and the outcome of my actions has made me realize I was such an asshole. How many times had I made him feel small? How many times had I laughed at his expense, thinking I was being funny while he quietly absorbed the blows? And for what? To make myself feel bigger? To draw a laugh from people who would only mock and disrespect him? I went too far, and I regret it. The worst part is, I knew better, and I can't help but wonder if I've lost him for good. Joel has still refused to warm up to me like before. He had started talking to me, but things no longer feel the same as before. I know he is still the same Joel I married, but he feels different. A month after our fight, he came home and made us dinner just like before, but unlike my husband, who would wait to make sure I eat, he just had his dinner and went to bed. He no longer expresses the little gestures he used to do before, and just acts nonchalantly to everything. Each time I complained or nagged about something, unlike the husband I married, who would immediately apologize and try to appease me, the stranger I was living with would just smile and tell me to get used to the way things were going between us. I don't know what else to do anymore, and as if that wasn't enough, Joel's silent and cold treatment deepened when he got promoted to the position of the company's director, which automatically placed him as one of the board members. Our company president stated that he had been watching him all the while back, and he was well aware of all the effort he had put through for everyone in the company, starting from the fact that he had let me use his proposal for my presentation years back. He confessed that he had purposely promoted me to the position of a team leader to test him, but to his surprise, he was still the same and even married me. He had gone as far as refusing to promote him to study him more, and he had never seen anyone so patient and resilient like him for the past years, and he believes such a person is more than deserving to be a shareholder in his company. And since then, my work life has been a living hell. Joel rejects every proposal I present and makes me work extra. One time, while I was giving a presentation in front of the board members, he asked me a question, and from his facial expression, I had forgotten everything I had prepared, and because of that, I just couldn't answer. Joel's response crippled me. He told me I wasn't deserving to be part of the company as I was incompetent and I couldn't handle such a simple project. I almost died from embarrassment, and the fits of laughter that followed after he deemed me from everyone in the conference hall still haunt me. I had confronted him after that, and he reminded me of the times I had done worse to him, and he asked me if I finally understood what he felt. I was so speechless, and I just stood there crying. I kept apologizing and begging Joel, but he just walked out on me. I talked to my friends about it, but everyone I spoke to said it's my fault, and I'm just being served the meal I had been preparing for years now. I don't know what else to do anymore. I want my husband back, but I don't know how else to undo what I had done. I got a lot of feedback here, and most people said I'm just getting the perfect husband I always wanted, so I had no right to complain. I know I wanted Joel to change, but never this way. Each time I open my eyes to a new day, I can't help but worry what more drama Joel has prepared for me, and the thought of what he might do has my heart shaking in my chest. I know I have no right to blame him, because I am well aware I am the reason he became that way, and I'm paying for the consequences of my actions. Now, I live the rest of our future praying and hoping I wake up one day to see the old Joel, the man I had married in my life once again. I don't care if he is dumb or soft anymore. I don't care if he is weak, an introvert, boring, or whatever I thought he was before. I just need the caring and understanding man I had married, and I'm willing to do anything if only it were possible. Now I'm in pain, and I live in fear that I have lost Joel forever. I have nothing else left but just hope. Hope that my tomorrow will be different. Will that ever happen for me? I don't know, but I know that I need to put in a lot of work into making him forgive me and take our marriage to a better place. While I do that work, I can't be here anymore, so you guys will not see me here again. Thank you for your advice. So bye.
I wanted to break my nonchalant BF ego by cheating on him instead. It backfired hard. I need help. Oh my God, why did I do it? What was I thinking trying to cheat on my boyfriend? Now I have received a very harsh karma fast. It didn't even take a long time to get karma. What I did backfired hard and roughly. I just wanted him to pay more attention to me, or show that he cares. I had thought cheating on him was the right solution, but I guess I was wrong. I regret even thinking and contemplating the cheating plan because now things took a very wrong and drastic turn. What should I do? Please help me. I shouldn't have listened to my friends when they advised me to cheat on him so I can break his ego. I shouldn't have gone through with it because I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered and broken heart. And the worst part, I cheated on my boyfriend with the person I had considered a best friend. A brother. I didn't know it would backfire like that. I was not in my right mind when I did it, but I cannot blame anyone but me for the abomination that I had done. You know, sometimes when I would talk about what had taken place and the events that happened in my relationship, I would ask myself, why did I do it? Was it worth it? My boyfriend was a nonchalant and had a very huge and disgusting ego sometimes, but he had never given me any reason to cheat on him. He still gave me the best love he could, but his ego and his nonchalant self drove me to it. Well, more like my friend's advice and their dislike for my boyfriend drove me to it. There was no problem with him, only the fact that he was a selfish person. He never really cared about anything or anyone, only if he was secure and happy. Another person's feelings didn't matter to him. The only thing he would do was showing me love, buying me gifts, spoiling me, but he was unapologetic. Even if he was the one who was wrong, he would just dismiss the situation or shift everything and pin it on you. That was the only thing that was a turnoff and a red flag that I got from my boyfriend. Please tell me what to do about this and how I can move on from everything. I mean, my image and reputation was ruined. My life was ruined. I almost lost the only thing that had made me hold on in order to survive. I was left dry and dusted, but eventually I managed to heal and move on. I found someone else, but I'm scared that he would somehow become like Jake as time goes on. I don't know what to do and how to fully heal. Jake, my boyfriend, male 26, and I, female 26, started dating 7 years ago. We were 19 years old at that time. We had gone to a church camp that took place in Cranmore Hall, East Cranmore, Shepton Mallet, UK. Well, we had met during church camps a few times. We would speak here and there, but we were not close. We started getting close during a summer church camp. We would spend more time together and even share our food. Jake was a very funny guy. He was a very calm person and relaxed. Well, I was a confident and independent woman, while Jake had a nonchalant and somewhat aloof demeanor. I surprisingly found Jake's nonchalance initially charming, but over time it began to grate on me. I fell in love with his calm and collectedness. We once shared our dreams, and he did have big dreams. It was always sour and bitter when the camp was over and we had to go back to our hometowns. Well, he lived in Clevedon while I lived in Bruton, which was an hour and some minutes drive from my place. But despite the distance between our hometowns, we would try by all means to communicate over the phone and maybe meet up at least twice every month. We dated for a couple of months through telephonically and our twice-a-month meeting plan. It was very hard having to not see your partner whenever we wanted to. We only communicated through social media and phone calls. The following year, he said to me that he was going to the University of London, which was heartbreaking for me. The way he was so chilled when I told him my fears of him going to UL, University of London, but he was just nonchalant about the whole situation. As hard as it was, I eventually gave him my blessings to go to UL, University of London, while I attended University of Birmingham, which was approximately 2 hours and some minutes drive. It was too far from me, and I had fears that Jake might get someone better than me in university. I would sometimes find myself overthinking and end up imagining him with another girl besides me. I had fallen deep in love with Jake to a point that I didn't even see myself living without him. But throughout all of that, we survived. A year later, I moved in with him in his apartment. Well, I had decided to apply at University of London the previous year, of which was fortunate for me to get accepted. So that's why I moved in with Jake. Our love was everything to us. We were inseparable. We couldn't live without each other. My friends would sometimes complain about how much I no longer spend time with them since I'm always with Jake. As time passed, our relationship started being more about Jake and not me. He was very nonchalant when it came to my feelings. Staying with him was no longer fun, and our intimate moments were no longer the same. Jake didn't care about anything rather than himself. Jake became a self-centered person who had an ego for days. I remember when I first had to visit him in his student's apartment room, I found a girl's underwear in his room. I couldn't believe it. I confronted him about it, and guess what he said? He just pinned everything on me. He told me that I was pranking him and I had bought the underwear to pin it on him. The guy didn't even try to apologize. Instead, he blamed me for everything. When I asked him to put his ego aside and learn to take responsibility for his actions, he told me that he won't apologize for something he never did and didn't even know about. Every time when we would argue, he would always find a way to put blame on me and not apologize when he is wrong. I would apologize, just for the sake of maintaining peace between us. I loved Jake a lot, but his ego was somehow getting to me to a point that I would sometimes think of getting out of the relationship. But I would rethink my decision because I loved him so much. And I had never seen myself with anyone else except for him, but the way he was doing things made me wonder if being consistent in this relationship was worth my happiness. I was no longer happy with Jake. My friends would advise me to get out of the relationship and find someone better. Maybe I should have listened to them earlier. I felt like Jake didn't appreciate me enough and took me for granted. So Sasha and Kelly, my friends, would often comment on Jake's behavior, suggesting that he might have an ego problem, of which they were right about. He had a very big ego and it was somehow a red flag for him. My friends encouraged me to break his ego by making him jealous or even cheating on him, so he would know how it felt like to be cheated on and deny everything. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to stoop to such a level, and I still loved Jake. I believed and had hope that he would maybe change and become the man that I had fallen in love with over the years. However, as time went on, my resentment towards Jake grew. I felt like I was constantly trying to get his attention and approval, but it was never enough. In a moment of weakness, I decided to take my friend's advice and cheat on Jake. Jake was not appreciative of everything I did, and I somehow felt lonely even when he was present. So I met up with an old friend that I had found at UB, University of Birmingham. His name was David, male, 27. David and I were actually childhood friends. David and I went to the same primary in high school. A few weeks later, David and I reunited and continued our friendship. He had gone to study at University of Philadelphia. That was when we got separated. I was happy to get reunited with my old friend, but Jake was not approving of our friendship. I don't know if it was jealousy or what, but the way Jake was acting towards my friendship with David was somehow a turnoff to me. Days passed, and David had invited me to have a chill out with him and his friends. I agreed to the invitation. I just couldn't stay with Jake that weekend, and his behavior was making me angry. I wanted him to change, but I think he didn't want to. He loved how he was. So David and myself, after the chill out with his friends, we went to his flat and we ended up spending the night together. With David, I always felt free, like I was myself, and I also felt a sense of excitement and validation, but also guilt and shame because I went against Jake's disapproval. I knew that I had crossed a line and that there was no going back. David and I kissed. We were tipsy from the alcohol we had drank at the chill-out party. Things escalated to a point that we ended up being intimate. I know it was wrong of me, but I couldn't help it. Jake was no longer doing it the way he was doing it before. It was like his ego and nonchalant behavior had somehow gotten into his head, and it was making him look like a crazy person or a person with bipolar disorder. He was very calm, but when he got angry, even the house would be on fire. So I would always try by all means to keep the peace between us. On the other hand, David was making me feel completely happy, and he knew how to take responsibility for his actions. David knew how to apologize when he was wrong, and would make sure that he takes the blame as it is. I didn't know that in my relationship with Jake, the last time Jake had uttered the word, "I'm sorry." Instead of doing that, he would either deny or shift the blame on me or someone else. He didn't have the guts to say, "I'm sorry." Spending time with David made me feel at ease. I felt a sense of belonging, and he understood me and my needs. I know I shouldn't have fallen for a person I called a friend, but I couldn't help it. David had once confessed his love for me before, but I was so much in love with Jake, so I kept rejecting him and told him that I didn't see him in that manner, but I saw him as a brother and a best friend that I had ever had since we grew up together. But I guess the phrase that says, "marry your best friend," was somehow true. Well, because I never really believed in such phrases. I only believed in my heart that if it loves someone, we can be in love with them, or even marry them. The next day, I tried to act normal around Jake, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something was wrong. Jake, being as nonchalant as ever, didn't seem to notice anything amiss. So my guilt and anxiety grew with each passing day. I didn't know what to do with myself, but I knew that I had to act normal. Eventually, I couldn't bear the weight of my secret any longer. I had to come clean to Jake. At least he deserved that, and see how he would react to the situation. So I confessed to Jake what I had done and told him that it was purely a mistake and it wasn't my intention to betray him like I did. Jake was devastated. I know that he was a nonchalant person, but he had feelings, so I knew that I had hurt him with what I had done. I know that he had always been confident in our relationship and never suspected that I would cheat on him. That was how much he trusted me, even with his behavior. He still gave me my place as his partner. Jake's nonchalant demeanor shattered, and he expressed his pain and anger to me. He felt betrayed and humiliated. I apologized profusely and begged for his forgiveness. But Jake couldn't bring himself to forgive me. He broke up with me and moved out of our apartment, which I think was a bit too much. He shouldn't have moved out, you know. I was heartbroken and filled with regret. I realized that cheating on Jake had been a huge mistake. Few days later, I got the greatest shocker of them all. So since Jake had moved out of the apartment, he went to live in another apartment that was not far from the university. As I was busy scrolling through my phone, going through social media, there was something that had caught my attention. When I saw Jake's WhatsApp status, I saw that he had posted some girl but hid her face and wrote, "The only one who would never betray me and take my love for granted," on his caption. That truly broke my heart. I mean, how he could move on a few days after he broke up with me. A lot was ringing in my head. I had thought Jake was an honest guy. So how come he had moved on a few days after our breakup and even posted her on social media? Was I a fool this whole time? I kept asking myself if she was the girl that had left underwear at his apartment, and when I asked about it, he changed everything and put the blame on me, saying that I was pranking him. Why does it still hurt so much to see that the person I had spent 5 years with had replaced me within the blink of an eye? The way he was doing things, it was like he wanted to make me jealous, or see my reaction towards the situation. While on the other hand, I had got an engagement party invitation from David. I knew there and then that my life was doomed. Karma had got my address very quickly. It's sometimes heartbreaking how unfair life is. I mean, I cheated on Jake with David, while David also cheated on his girlfriend, but I was the only one feeling the wrath of the abomination. David lived his happy life with his partner while mine was falling apart. During that time, I was still in pain and trying to go through everything, like trying to deal with the best way I knew how. So, as I was keeping myself busy by going through social media, I logged onto Twitter and guess what I saw? A moment of me and David at his flat, doing the shameful act. I was drunk, so I don't really remember some events that took place, but when I saw the video, my world came crumbling down. I tried checking who had posted it, but the person had created a fake account to tarnish my image and reputation. I suspected David for the video, but when I would come to think of it, I told myself that David valued our friendship so much for him to humiliate me like that. My mind also drifted to Jake. I mean, he was the only person that I had cheated on, and he managed to move on a few days after our breakup. I had thought that maybe he was doing that to spite me. I mean, he managed to gloat and post his new girlfriend on social media knowing very well that I would see the posts. Only a hurting heart would take a drastic decision like that. Another thing I didn't know was that David's flat had cameras, and he didn't even bother to notify me about them. Or maybe it was his plan, David's, to record everything that we were doing in his flat so that he would post it on Twitter. My mind was all over. I didn't even know who to blame and who to suspect because I even thought of David's girlfriend, thinking maybe she had bugged the camera in David's flat for some reason, and she decided to create a fake account to demonize my dignity and image. That one really took away all my surviving energy and left me empty. I then decided to just switch off my phone and put it in a place where I knew I wouldn't find it while I was going through the phase. And come to think of it, David had once confessed his undying love for me, asking me to give him a chance in my life and how much he won't disappoint me. I rejected his request and confession, and now he has the nerve to sleep with me, then gloat about his relationship and engagement while my relationship had fallen apart. How unfair was that, mind you? I had developed some little feelings for David during all the times that I had been spending with him. Was it David's part of the plan to invite me to chill out, make me drunk, and then sleep with me? I felt truly violated about the video, mind you. David's face was not even showing, only me and the action that took place. I tried watching the video to try and remind myself what had really gone down that night, because the only thing I remembered was David and myself leaving the party and going to his flat to continue our mini party. As friends, of course. We got there, watched a movie while drinking. One minute we were laughing, doing crazy things, then another minute we were kissing. What happened next became blurry. It was like I was brainwashed. I felt like I was losing my mind and my sanity. I was slowly losing myself to a point that I would actually sleep with a bottle of gin to numb the pain and forget everything for a few hours. I wished to just sleep and never wake up when everything was over and I had healed. It was really a lot to take in. I didn't know that cheating on my nonchalant boyfriend would actually backfire this hard. I must admit that karma had hit me where it was hurting the mist. It was like salt was poured on a bleeding cut. That's how much hurt I was feeling. I spent, I think, 2 weeks, if not more, in the apartment. My friends even tried to call me, but I switched off my phone. I just disappeared from everything, my social life, social media, and even going out. I just stayed in the house and locked all the doors so that people would think there is no one in the house. My friends came over. They kept knocking and calling my name, but I ignored them until they decided to go. Weeks later, I had seen myself drowning in sorrows that I didn't even know who would come and rescue me. I felt like my soul was slowly leaving my body, the way things were. It was hard to handle all alone. So when I had gathered a little strength, I decided to call Jake and ask him about the video that was posted on social media. And to my surprise, he answered my call. I didn't even think he would because of how rough our breakup was. I thought he was still angry at me somehow. When he answered the call, he answered by saying, "I know you want to ask me about the video of you having fun with your so-called friend." My mouth went dry in an instant and got tongue-tied. When I recovered from what he had said, I asked him if he was the one who posted it and where he got the video. He just told me that, "You can never hurt a loving heart and think everything will be well. Karma always has a home to visit, and I guess it visited your address sooner. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he didn't confirm my speculations, and he didn't even deny them, so my mind was suspecting him. I thought he loved me, but I guess I was wrong, meaning the whole 5 years that we had spent together meant nothing to him. It was truly heartbreaking and depressing. Yes, I had fallen for what David was offering me that I had been missing in my relationship with Jake, but my heart didn't love him. I loved Jake, and my actions didn't only cost me a relationship and the person I loved, but I had also lost my self-respect. I lost the person who loved me for me and respected our relationship. Jake and I had goals and dreams for our relationship. And I guess all those dreams and goals went down the drain the day I committed abomination and betrayed Jake. I vowed to learn from my mistake and to never cheat on anyone again. I had realized that true love and respect are built on trust and fidelity. So I spent the next few months working on myself, trying to heal from the pain I had caused Jake and myself. Eventually, I met someone new who appreciated me for who I was. I had broken all my connections, David. After what we had done, I was no longer looking at him the same. When I looked at him, I would only see the betrayal that I had done to Jake, so I thought we were better off apart. I learned that it is important to be with someone who values and respects you, and that cheating is never the answer to problems in a relationship. But I had only one problem that I couldn't even move on from. I looked for Jake and Brandon, my current boyfriend. In some way, I am still expecting him to change on me just like how Jake did. I lack trust. Not that I do not trust Brandon, but I am somehow insecure. I know that he has female friends and they respect our relationship, but I just can't bring myself to trust any of them. Is this even normal? I don't know why I would sometimes think Brandon would actually do what I had done to Jake. I trust Brandon, but I don't trust his female friends. What is wrong with me? Because even therapy couldn't even help me. I love Brandon, but I am scared of the unknown. What do you think I should do?